I never thought I would return to the forest, not after everything I had learned, not after the whispers that ran through my family like wildfire, devouring our history, erasing memories with every breath. But here I was, standing at the edge of it, on the threshold of the Wolfswood. It felt like fate had pulled me here, like the moon herself had whispered my name and lured me back to where it all began, where my blood began. The cottage that stood before me had always been a place of mystery, a place wrapped in silence and secrecy. My grandmother had spoken of it only once, when I was a child, too young to understand, too naive to ask the right questions. I didn't know then, of course, what she was trying to tell me. But I know now. Now, with every step I take deeper into the Wolfswood, at the forest that stretches farther than the eye can see, the air feels thick, like something is pressing in on me, whispering just beyond my reach. The pack is here. They've always been here, hidden in plain sight. The wolves whose eyes gleam with the same fire that burns in my veins. I had come to this cottage to escape the world, to leave behind the weight of a life I no longer recognized. After everything, after the heartbreak, the betrayal, the life I built around lies, it felt like the right time, but I never expected this. I never expected to feel the pull of this place so sharply, so intensely. It's like the cottage knew I was coming, like the walls whispered when I crossed the threshold. It's as if the house itself has been waiting for me. I should have left. I should have turned back the moment I stepped into the dim-lit hall. Should have run the moment I heard that strange sound. But something in me, something deep inside, refused to let me. Maybe it was the call of the wolves that runs through my bloodline. Maybe it was the mate bond I never asked for, never understood, but knew existed all the same, beckoning me back to where it all started. The pull to find answers, to find the truth. I let my hand slide over the old wooden table. It was cold to the touch, just like the air around me. The house seemed empty, but not in the way I expected. It was a silence, a stillness that felt alive, almost too alive, as if the house itself was holding its breath, waiting. I turned the corner and found myself staring down a narrow hallway, the dim light of the single candle flickering in the silence. My eyes darted to the end of the hall, where the shadows thickened. And that was when I first heard it. The whimper. Soft, almost indistinguishable at first, but then clearer. It echoed in the silence of the house, pulling me deeper into the shadows. What could it be? I didn't want to know, but my feet carried me forward anyway. That strange curiosity, that gnawing feeling deep inside me, pushed me forward. It was a feeling I had tried to ignore for years, ever since my grandmother's death. But the feeling never went away. It only grew stronger as I grew older, and it brought me here, back to the heart of the forest where my ancestors had walked, where their blood had been spilled. I knelt down in front of the bed. The sound was closer now, almost unbearable. It was like a pulse, a heartbeat, slow and steady, but somehow urgent. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to lift the bed frame, but I did, as I had no choice. My fingers brushed the cold wood beneath the bed, and then there it was. A whimper, a growl, the breath of something not human. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. My heart raced. I couldn't tell whether it was fear or something else. It wasn't supposed to be like this, but it was. It had always been this way. I hesitated before I reached under the bed, feeling the dust and cobwebs cling to my hand. But the moment my fingers brushed against the fur, I felt it. A sharp jolt of electricity ran through my body, as if I had touched something alive, something ancient. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I felt the presence of something watching me. The growl deepened, vibrating through the room. It wasn't a warning, it was a claim. I pulled my hand back, but before I could even stand, and I felt the air in the room shift. Something was watching me. Something was waiting. I reached into the darkness beneath the bed again, my fingers trembling as I felt the fur. I couldn't explain it, but the pull was undeniable. As if some force stronger than will itself was drawing me closer. Slowly, I pulled the creature out from the shadows, and that was when I saw it. A pup, barely a few months old. Its fur was matted, but there was something wrong about it. Its eyes, golden eyes, glowing, staring up at me with an intelligence I couldn't comprehend. I froze. The eyes didn't blink. They didn't look away. It wasn't just any pup. It was a wolf. The connection hit me like a ton of bricks, a wave of recognition crashing over me. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a stray pup lost in the woods. This was something I had been running from my whole life. The wolves of my bloodline. The call of the pack. The pup's low growl was almost inaudible, but it rumbled deep within my chest. I could feel it vibrating through my bones, like a warning. And yet, despite the fear in my heart, I didn't run. I stayed. The golden eyes held me captive, but it wasn't just the eyes. It was the weight of the moon, the weight of the legacy in my veins. I had always known. Somewhere deep inside me, I had always known. The blood of the wolf runs through me. It always has. I felt a sudden shiver run down my spine, and a voice echoed in my mind. A voice I recognized, but hadn't heard in years. You can't run from what you are, Mara. The forest doesn't just call you, it chooses you. It wasn't the pup, it wasn't the wind. It was the forest itself. Not the wolves. The call to claim what was always mine. What do I do now? The pup's eyes glowed even brighter, and I knew then. I was no longer just a visitor in this place. I had stepped into the heart of a world I didn't understand. And the world, in turn, had accepted me. Or maybe it had been waiting for me. I closed my eyes and took a slow, steady breath. And for the first time in my life, I understood that the forest would never let me go. I had always been drawn to the woods, though I never understood why. Maybe it was the way the trees seemed to whisper when the wind passed through their branches, or how the forest felt alive. Alive in a way that was both comforting and terrifying. It called to me, a voice I couldn't quite place, a presence I had spent years trying to ignore. But now, standing at the edge of the Wolfswood, I knew it was no longer something I could avoid. The call had always been there. Like a mate pulling me back, like a connection too deep to sever. I had to come here. I had to see it for myself. The forest had waited long enough. The cottage stood before me, nestled deep in the heart of the woods, far from any other living soul. A relic from a time long gone. The cottage had been in my family for generations, but no one spoke of it. No one came here. For as long as I could remember, this place had been shrouded in mystery and fear, a place that my ancestors had abandoned. My grandmother's warnings echoed in my mind. Never come back to the Wolfswood. It's not just the forest that waits for you. The pack, Mara, they will always be there. But I had to come. I had no choice. The pressures of the world outside, the noise, the chaos, at the endless demands, I needed escape. I needed to find the peace that only silence and isolation could offer. I needed to clear my mind, to find the answers to the questions that had been haunting me since childhood. Why was I different? What was it about my bloodline that had made this place so dangerous? Why did I feel this pull, this undeniable need to return. As I stepped into the cottage, the air around me felt heavy, thick with an unnatural presence. The floorboards groaned under my feet as though the house itself was waking, as though it had been asleep for years, and now, finally, someone had come to disturb it. My breath caught in my throat, the weight of the place pressing down on me. This was no ordinary house. It was a place of memories, a place that had witnessed the rise and fall of my family's legacy. And now, it was waiting for me. The scent of dust and decay filled the air, but there was something else, something familiar yet unsettling. It was the scent of old magic, the kind of magic that had been buried beneath layers of time and silence. I could almost hear the whispers of those who had lived here before. Their voices carried on the wind, their secrets hidden in the walls. I could feel them, watching me, waiting for me to unlock whatever it was they had left behind. I tried to shake off the feeling of being watched, but the presence lingered, thickening the air around me. As I moved through the cottage, every corner seemed to hold something unseen, as if the house itself was alive, breathing in rhythm with me. The moon was rising, its light spilling through the dusty windows, casting long shadows that danced along the walls. At the moon, it had always been there, watching, waiting. It was the old moon, the one that tied my ancestors to this land, the one that had never let them go. And now it was here again, rising in the sky like it always had. I walked deeper into the house, my footsteps heavy in the silence. The creaking of the wood beneath me seemed louder than usual, each step echoing in the stillness. I reached the living room and paused, taking in the sight of the fireplace, the old chairs, the faded curtains. It was as if time had forgotten this place, but I knew better. The house had not forgotten me. It knew I was here. I reached for the nearest chair, my fingers brushing the dusty armrest. The moment I touched it, a shiver ran down my spine. It was the same feeling I had gotten every time I thought of this place. What a connection. A link to something ancient, something powerful, something that was meant for me. As I turned away, a sound caught my ear. A soft whimper. At first, I thought it was the wind, or maybe the house settling, but then it came again, louder this time. A growl. My heart skipped a beat. It wasn't the sound of a wild animal, not really. It was the sound of something alive, something that didn't belong here, something that was as much a part of this place as I was. I felt my breath quicken as I walked toward the source of the sound. The whimper grew louder, more urgent, and I couldn't ignore it any longer. I followed the sound to the bedroom at the far end of the cottage. The door creaked as I opened it, and I stepped into the room. It was dark, save for the flickering candle that barely illuminated the corners. And there, beneath the bed, I saw it, a pup, small, trembling, with glowing golden eyes. It was not a regular pup. I could feel it. It was too still, too watchful. I could feel the weight of its gaze, even in the dark. It was the kind of gaze that pierces, that knows you better than you know yourself. I knelt down slowly, my fingers trembling as I reached toward the pup. The moment I touched it, the fur under my fingers felt different. It wasn't soft like I expected. It was rough, like it had been through something I couldn't comprehend. The growl came again, low and rumbling, vibrating through the floorboards. The pup was guarding something that had been hidden in this room for a long time. I pulled my hand back, and for a moment, I just stared at it. What was this thing? What was it doing here? And I had heard the stories, the old legends, but I had never believed them. I had always dismissed them as myths. as the ramblings of old women too steeped in superstition. But now, as I knelt on the cold floor of this cottage, with the golden eyes of this pup staring at me, I knew that everything I thought I knew was a lie. The air grew colder, the shadows longer. The house seemed to close in around me, like it was waiting for me to make my move. I couldn't deny it anymore. The forest wasn't just a place, it was a living entity, a force older than time itself. And it was calling me, just like it had called my ancestors before me. The pup wasn't here by chance. It was here for a reason. And I, Mara, was the reason. The silence of the cottage wrapped around me like a thick, suffocating blanket. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows, but within the house, the air felt stagnant. It felt like I was walking through the pages of a forgotten history, one that had been buried long before I was born. Every creak of the floorboards beneath my feet, every flicker of candlelight that danced across the walls, seemed to echo the weight of my family's past, a past I had never truly understood until now. The journal sat heavy in my hands, its leather binding cracked and worn with age. My grandmother's handwriting filled the pages, her words almost indecipherable at times, but the weight behind each sentence was undeniable. The journal wasn't just a collection of thoughts, it was a map, a guide to something far deeper, something ancient, a world I hadn't even known existed. For years, I had pushed the questions to the back of my mind. I had spent my life running from the truth, thinking that if I ignored the strange dreams, the whispers in the wind, and the pull I felt every time I came near the woods, it would all just go away. But now that I was here, in the heart of the forest, alone in this ancient cottage, the truth had come crashing down on me. I couldn't avoid it anymore. The wolves, the curse, my bloodline. I flipped through the pages, my fingers trembling as I read the words aloud to myself. Even though I wasn't sure if I believed them, my grandmother's voice seemed to echo in my mind, urging me to understand what had always been hidden. The blood runs thick with the wolves, I read aloud. The pack calls, and the curse is upon us. We have always been their protectors, but something went wrong. The old pack, the one that came before us, has turned on us. The wolves are not just beasts, they are us. And they will not stop until we claim what is ours. They will come for us, for our blood, for the bond we share with them. We must prepare, we must hide. But it is too late. The forest calls. The moon will rise, and the curse will claim its own. My breath caught in my throat as I absorbed the meaning of those words. The wolves weren't just animals. They were part of my family's legacy. The pack, the creature that roamed these woods, were tied to me, to us. My ancestors had once protected the forest, kept the pack at bay, but something had gone wrong. What had happened? What had changed? The pup's eyes flashed in my memory, golden, glowing, watching me as if it knew everything. I closed the journal, my heart pounding in my chest. This wasn't just some stray wolf and some lost animal in the woods. This was something far more dangerous, something tied to me in a way I couldn't yet comprehend. I stood up, pacing around the room. The walls felt like they were closing in on me. I couldn't breathe. I needed to get out of here, to escape this place before it swallowed me whole. But the pull was too strong. The forest was calling to me, its ancient power seeping into my veins, urging me to stay. Why? I turned to the window, my gaze drawn to the moon rising high in the sky. The moon, the same one that had haunted my dreams for as long as I could remember. It called to me, a familiar, unspoken bond that I had tried to deny, but it was undeniable now. The moon had always known. It was the same moon that had witnessed the birth of my ancestors, and the same moon that had seen their fall. The pack was tied to it, and now it was tied to me. I felt the pup's eyes on me, even though it wasn't in the room. The glow of its golden gaze still lingered, burning in the back of my mind. I reached up to touch the side of my neck, feeling the pulse there, faster than it should have been. The forest had a way of making you feel its presence, its ancient power, wrapping itself around your soul. The more I tried to resist it, the stronger it became. I turned back to the journal, my fingers running over the pages once more. It wasn't just my family's curse, it was mine. It had always been mine. The bloodline of the wolves ran through me, and with it came the responsibility, the duty. But for what? What had my family protected? What had gone wrong? I skimmed through the pages, my mind racing as I tried to make sense of the cryptic entries. And the words seemed to blur together, the writing shaky, as though my grandmother had been afraid, perhaps even desperate to write down everything she knew before it was too late. The pack grows restless. They can feel it, feel the change in the wind, in the earth. They will come for us. They will come for the blood. The bond cannot be broken. We are theirs, just as they are ours. The old wolves have turned, but we have the power to fight. The moon will guide us, as it always has. But be warned. The curse is not a thing of the past. It is not something that can be outrun. It is not something that can be hidden from. It is the mate bond. It is the bond of the pack, and it is in our blood. I read those words again, trying to make sense of them. The mate bond, the connection between the wolves and their mates, the humans who shared their blood, who were tied to them by the forest itself. The bond had been hidden from me, buried deep within my family's history. But now I understood. It was in me too. I was connected to the wolves, to the forest, to the curse, and now they were coming for me. I stood there for a long moment, just staring at the journal in my hands. The weight of it, the weight of the truth, pressing down on me. The pup, its eyes still watching me, its presence always lingering in the back of my mind, was part of it. It wasn't just a creature. It was part of my family's legacy, part of the ancient power that had been passed down through the generations. And now it had found me. What was I supposed to do? How was I supposed to fight this? I could feel the forest closing in around me, its presence growing stronger with every breath. The wind outside seemed to howl louder, almost as if the trees themselves were crying out, urging me to leave. But I couldn't. I wasn't just here by chance. The forest had called me. It had drawn me in, just like it had drawn my ancestors. The pup was a sign. It was more than just an animal. It was the start of something that I couldn't yet understand. Something I wasn't sure I wanted to understand. But I had no choice now. The forest would not let me leave. I didn't know how long I stood there, staring at the journal, my mind racing with everything I had learned. The moon hung high in the sky, its light seeping through the cracks in the windows, casting long, dark shadows across the room. The forest was awake, and the wolves, the pack, were waiting for me. What was I supposed to do? The forest doesn't forget. That's what my grandmother used to say, back when I was naive enough to believe that old women spoke only in riddles, because they lived too long to speak plainly. I used to think it was just another one of her cryptic warnings, the kind that made my mother roll her eyes and change the subject. But standing here now, 3 days into my stay at this cottage, that time itself seems to have abandoned. I'm beginning to understand that some truths don't reveal themselves until you're already caught in their teeth. The mark on my arm burns. Not the kind of burn that comes from touching something hot or staying too long in the sun. This is deeper, older, like my blood itself has learned a new language and is trying to spell out words I don't yet have the courage to read. The symbol matches the one I found in grandmother's journal exactly. Every curve and line, every sharp angle that seems to point towards something I can't quite name. I've traced it with my fingers 100 times since it appeared yesterday morning, expecting it to fade like a bruise or a bad dream. But it hasn't. If anything, it's grown darker, more defined, as if my skin is accepting what my mind refuses to believe. I didn't sleep last night. How could I, knowing what I know now, knowing that my family's history isn't just a collection of old stories and faded photographs, but something alive, something that breathes and waits and watches from the spaces between the trees. The journal entries are worse than I imagined, and my grandmother's handwriting deteriorates as the pages progress, starting neat and measured, then growing wild and desperate, the pen pressing so hard into the paper that some words have torn through to the other side. She wrote about the covenant, the ancient bond between our bloodline and the wolves that claim this forest long before humans ever thought to call it theirs. Protectors, she called us, guardians of the old ways, keepers of the balance between the world that walks in daylight and the one that hunts beneath the moon. But something broke, something shattered that carefully maintained equilibrium. And the wolves who once treated my ancestors as equals began to see them as enemies. She never wrote exactly what happened, or maybe she did, and those pages are among the ones that have been torn out, leaving only ragged edges and the ghost of words I'll never read. All I know is that the protection ended, the covenant crumbled, and my family ran. They ran for generations. From this place, from this forest, from the truth of what we were and what we'd lost. My mother never spoke of it. My father didn't know. And grandmother, in her final years, would only stare out the window with those pale gray eyes that seemed to see through walls and time itself, muttering about debts unpaid and promises that don't die just because the ones who made them do. I thought she'd lost her mind. I thought the dementia had finally taken the last coherent pieces of her and scattered them like leaves in the autumn wind. I was wrong. The cottage feels different today. The air is thicker somehow, pressing against my skin like it's trying to tell me something, trying to warn me or welcome me, or maybe both at once. I can feel eyes on me constantly now, not just at night but during the day too, when the sun filters through the canopy in those thin golden streams that never quite reach the forest floor. The pup is growing. I measured it against the door frame this morning, and the marks I made 3 days ago are already inches below where its shoulder now reaches. That's not possible. Nothing grows that fast, not naturally, not in any world that follows the rules I thought I understood. But this world has different rules. I can feel them settling over me like a second skin. Like the forest itself is rewriting the laws of physics just for this place, just for whatever's happening here. The pup watches me with those golden eyes that seem far too knowing for any creature that should still be stumbling over its own paws. Sometimes I catch it staring at the mark on my arm, and I swear there's recognition there, like it knows exactly what that symbol means even if I don't. Like it's waiting for me to figure it out, to catch up to a truth it was born. Understanding, I should leave. Every rational part of my brain screams that at me with increasing urgency. Pack my bags, get in the car, drive back to the city where the only eyes watching me belong to security cameras and bored pedestrians. But I can't. And it's not just curiosity keeping me here, though that's part of it. It's something deeper, something that feels almost like obligation, Like I've been carrying this weight my whole life without knowing it, and only now, here in this place my family spent generations avoiding, am I finally setting it down? Or picking it up. I'm not sure which. The journal has more to tell me. I've been reading it in chronological order, trying to piece together the timeline of events that led to whatever catastrophe sent my ancestors fleeing. But last night, unable to sleep with the mark burning on my arm and the sound of breathing under my bed, I skipped ahead, jumped to the final entries, the ones where grandmother's handwriting is barely legible, where the words run together and the ink is smudged as if she'd been crying while she wrote. And there, buried in a passage about moon cycles and blood debts, and the price of broken promises, I found something that made my own blood run cold. She knew I would come here, not just suspected or hoped, but knew with absolute certainty. She'd written my name Mara in capital letters underlined 3 times, and beneath it a single sentence that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. The daughter of the daughter will return when the old moon wanes and the forest calls its lost children home. I checked the calendar on my phone before the battery died yesterday. The new moon is 3 days away. The old moon waning. The timing isn't coincidence. Nothing about this is coincidence. I'm being pulled into something, some pattern that was set in motion long before I was born. Maybe before my mother was born. Maybe generations back when the covenant was first formed, and my ancestors swore oaths to creatures that don't forgive and don't forget. The forest is alive with it. I can feel it now. Every rustle of leaves sounds like whispered conversations. Every crack of a branch echoes like footsteps following paths I can't see. And at night, oh at night, the howling begins. It started 2 nights ago, distant at first, so far away I could almost convince myself it was just wind moving through the valley. But last night it was closer, much closer, a chorus of voices that seemed to come from every direction at once. They weren't random, those howls. There was a pattern to them, structure, like they were communicating something specific, calling to each other, or calling to me. The pup responded, its head tilting back in a way that should have been awkward for a creature still supposedly young. And from its throat came a sound that raised every hair on my body. It wasn't quite a howl. Not yet. But it was trying, learning, practicing the language of whatever it's becoming. And when it finished, when that strange half-formed call died away into the darkness, the forest went silent, completely silent. No insects, no birds, no wind. Just silence pressing in from all sides, like the whole world was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. I stood at the window until dawn, watching shadows move between the trees, shapes too large to be deer, and too purposeful to be tricks of moonlight. They're gathering. I don't know how I know this, but I do. The same way I know that the mark on my arm is permanent. The same way I know that leaving now would solve nothing, because whatever's been set in motion will find me no matter where I run. The wolves are coming together, drawn by something. I'm responding to some signal I can't hear but can feel thrumming through the ground beneath my feet. The forest is preparing for something, a convergence, a reckoning. My grandmother wrote about the pack hierarchy, how they organize themselves not just by strength, but by bloodline, by the purity of their connection to the moon and the ancient magic that first gave them form. The alphas, she called them, though that word feels too simple for what she described. They're not just leaders, but living embodiments of the pack's collective will, chosen not by combat alone, but by some deeper recognition that happens when the right wolf is born under the right moon with the right heritage flowing through their veins. And beneath them, the betas, the enforcers and advisors. Then the hunters, the scouts, the guardians of the territory. And then there are the omegas. She wrote less about them, as if even acknowledging their existence caused her pain. The ones who don't fit, who can't find their place in the rigid structure of pack law. Not weak, she insisted, not broken, but different, caught between worlds, belonging fully to neither. Some are born that way, others are made, transformed by trauma or curse or choice into something that exists in the margins of wolf society. I found myself reading those passages over and over, feeling something twist in my chest that might have been recognition or might have been fear. The pup brought me something this morning. I woke to find it sitting beside the bed, those golden eyes fixed on my face with an intensity that should have been unnerving, but somehow wasn't. And in its mouth, carefully held so as not to damage it, was a flower, not just any flower, but one I recognized from the drawings in Grandmother's journal. Moon blossom, she'd labeled it, a rare species that only grows in places where the barrier between worlds is thin, where magic seeps through like water through cracked stone. The petals were silver white, almost luminous even in the gray morning light, and they smelled like night air and distant rain and something else I couldn't quite place. The pup laid it at my feet. Then it backed away, head lowered in a gesture that looked almost like a bow, like it was offering tribute or seeking permission or acknowledging something it expected me to understand. I picked up the flower with trembling hands, and the moment my fingers touched the petals, the mark on my arm flared hot. Not painful, but present, impossible to ignore. I'd like my blood was recognizing something it had been searching for. The pup's tail wagged once, a single deliberate sweep, and then it turned and trotted to the door, looking back at me expectantly. It wanted me to follow. Every instinct I'd been raised with told me not to. Don't go into the woods alone. Don't trust strange animals. Don't walk away from safety into unknown danger. But those instincts belonged to the person I was before I came here, before the mark appeared, before I started reading Grandmother's journal and understanding that my entire life has been built on carefully constructed lies designed to keep me away from this exact moment. So I followed. I put on my boots and my jacket, and I stepped out into the morning mist, with a creature that definitely isn't just a dog, leading me deeper into the forest. And the trees here are older than anything I've seen. Their trunks are massive, gnarled with age, bark rough enough to shred skin if you're not careful. The canopy blocks out so much light that even at midday it feels like dusk, shadows pooling in the hollows between roots that rise from the earth like the bones of buried giants. The pup moved with confidence, never hesitating, following a path that only it could see. And I followed, breathing hard in the thin, cold air, wondering with each step if this was wisdom or madness, or some combination of both. We walked for what felt like hours. The light filtering through the leaves shifted and changed, morning giving way to afternoon. And still we kept going, deeper into the forest, farther from the cottage, into places where the silence feels ancient and complete. No birds sing here, and no squirrels chatter from the branches, just the sound of my breathing and the soft pad of the pup's paws, and occasionally, carried on wind that seems to come from nowhere, the distant echo of water running over stone. Then the pup stopped. We'd reached a clearing, though calling it that makes it sound too ordinary. This was a space carved deliberately from the forest. A perfect circle where no trees grew, and the ground was covered in moss, so green it almost hurt to look at. In the center stood a stone, tall and ancient, covered in symbols that matched the one burning on my arm. And around the base of that stone, scattered like offerings or warnings or both, were bones. Not human, I don't think. But large, too large, skulls that could never have belonged to any deer or elk, with teeth designed for tearing and jaws built to crush. A wolf's skulls, I realized, but from wolves that would have stood taller than horses. That would have made the pup beside me look like a toy, even fully grown. Dire wolves, maybe, though those have been extinct for thousands of years. Unless they haven't. Unless extinction is just another lie we tell ourselves to feel safer in a world that's far stranger than we want to admit. The pup sat down and howled. This time it wasn't practice, wasn't half-formed. This was the real thing, a sound that came from somewhere deep in its chest and rose up through its throat with a force that shook the air itself. The call echoed off the trees, bounced around the clearing, and seemed to sink into the stone and the bones and the earth beneath my feet. And then, from somewhere in the distance, came an answer. Not one howl, but dozens. A chorus rising from every direction, some close and some far, some deep and resonant, and others high and sharp, like knife edges cutting through silk. The pack was responding, acknowledging the call, and I understood with sudden terrible clarity that this wasn't random. The pup had brought me here for a reason. This place, this stone, these bones, they all meant something. This was sacred ground, territory marked and claimed and defended for longer than human memory reaches. And I was standing right in the middle of it. The mark on my arm burned hotter than ever, and I pressed my palm against it, trying to ease the sensation. But the moment my skin made contact, the symbols on the stone began to glow. Faint at first, barely visible in the afternoon shadows, but growing brighter with each passing second. Blue-white light, a cold as starlight, tracing patterns that hurt to look at directly. The pup backed away from me, not in fear, but in something that looked almost like reverence. And I wanted to run, but my feet wouldn't move. The light grew brighter, the howls grew louder, and I felt something shift inside me. Something fundamental, like a door I didn't know existed, had just been thrown open, and everything I thought I knew about myself was pouring out through the gap. My grandmother's words echoed in my mind. The daughter of the daughter will return. Return, not arrive or discover or stumble upon. Return. As if I'd been here before, as if some part of me had always belonged to this clearing and this stone, and these bones scattered like promises at my feet. Then I heard his voice, not a howl this time, but actual words, spoken in a tone so deep it seemed to vibrate in my bones. You bear the mark, not a question, a statement of fact, delivered with the weight of judgment and recognition combined. I spun around, searching for the source, and there at the edge of the clearing stood a man. Or something that wore the shape of a man the way I might wear a coat, draped over what it really was with casual impermanence. He was tall, impossibly tall, with shoulders broad enough to block out the light and eyes that glowed the same golden color as the pup's. His hair was long and dark, shot through with silver that caught the light from the stone, and when he moved, it was with a grace that made my human coordination look clumsy and awkward. He wore simple clothes, jeans, and a shirt that looked out of place in this primeval setting, but the way he stood, or the absolute certainty in his posture, made it clear that he belonged here far more than I did. You shouldn't have come, he said, and his voice carried layers I couldn't parse, emotions I didn't have names for. Not anger exactly, though there was an edge to his words. Not fear, though I could sense caution threaded through every syllable. Something else. Something that sounded almost like sorrow. I found my voice, though it came out shaking more than I wanted. I didn't know I was coming, not really. I just needed to get away and this place was here, and now I can't seem to leave. His expression didn't change. The forest called you. The old moon wanes and the blood debt comes due. Your grandmother understood this. She tried to protect you by keeping you ignorant. But ignorance is no shield against what runs in your veins. Who are you, Arkarkruk? I managed to ask, though part of me already knew the answer, knew it in the same instinctive way I'd known to follow the pup, the same way I'd known that leaving would solve nothing. He stepped closer, and the pup immediately moved to stand beside him, pressing against his leg in a gesture of familiarity and deference. My name is Kyle, he said, and I am the reason your family fled this forest 3 generations ago. The world seemed to tilt. Kyle moved with the deliberate slowness of something very dangerous, trying not to appear threatening, though the attempt was undermined by everything else about him. The way shadows seemed to gather around his shoulders, the way the forest itself seemed to lean toward him, branches bending without wind, moss-covered ground rippling like water where his boots touched down. He was a part of this place in a way I would never be, no matter how many marks burned themselves into my skin. 3 generations, I repeated, my voice sounding distant to my own ears. That's not possible. You'd have to be old, he finished for me. Yes, the moon grants many gifts to those who serve it faithfully. Extended life is among the least remarkable. He tilted his head, studying me with an intensity that made me want to look away, but I forced myself to hold his gaze. You look like her, your grandmother. Same eyes. You knew her. The question came out as barely more than a whisper. I knew her better than anyone. Something flickered across his face, too quick to catch but slow enough to leave an impression. Grief, maybe? Or regret. We were bonded, paired beneath the old moon when she first came of age, and the pack still trusted human guardians to walk among us. She was supposed to lead alongside me, to bridge the worlds as her ancestors had done before her. The words hit me like physical blows. Bonded? You mean? Mates, he said, and the word carried weight that made the air feel heavy. Though we never completed the ritual, she made a choice, broke the covenant, chose her freedom over her duty, over me. His jaw tightened. The pack demanded retribution, blood for broken oaths. I gave her a 3-day head start and told her to run and never come back. I stared at him, trying to process this, trying to fit this new information into the framework of everything I thought I knew about my family. My grandmother, bound to a werewolf, meant to lead a pack, running from a destiny she couldn't accept. And now I'm here, I said slowly, wearing her mark, standing in her place. Now you're here, Kyle agreed. And the debt that she left unpaid has passed to you. That's how it works with blood magic, with oaths sworn under the full moon. They don't die. They transfer. They wait. He gestured to the stone, still glowing with that cold blue light. This is the heart of our territory, where the covenant was first formed, where every guardian has stood to swear their oath. And you, Mara, are standing right where your grandmother stood when she promised to be mine. The world was spinning again. I pressed my hand against the mark, feeling it pulse in time with my heartbeat. I never swore any oath. I never promised anything. I just came here to clear my head, and now you're telling me I'm somehow responsible for something my grandmother did before my mother was even born? I'm telling you that blood knows blood, Kale said quietly. That the forest called and you answered. That the mark appeared because your lineage recognized this place, recognized what you were meant to be. You can deny it all you want, but your body already knows the truth. I can smell the change beginning in you, the moon's pull, the hunger you haven't named yet. I wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, but the words wouldn't come. Because he wasn't wrong. The hunger he spoke of, I'd felt it growing in me over the past few days. The restlessness, the way food didn't satisfy anymore. The way I'd found myself standing at the window in the middle of the night, staring up at the stars, and feeling like something essential was just out of reach. What happens now, I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. Kel was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "That depends on you. The pack knows you're here. They know what you carry. Some want to welcome you, to give you the chance your grandmother never took. Others see you as an enemy, the living embodiment of betrayal that cost us dearly." He paused, eyes searching my face. "And some, like me, don't know what to feel. Part of me wants to send you away, to spare you what's coming. Part of me wants to drag you before the pack and let them decide your fate. And part of me..." He stopped, jaw clenching. "Part of you what?" I pressed. "Part of me looks at you and sees her," he said finally. "Sees the woman I lost and the future that was stolen from both of us. And I hate that. And I hate that after 3 generations of trying to forget, trying to move past what she did to me, to us, you show up with her face and her mark and make me remember everything I've spent decades burying." The raw honesty in his words startled me. This wasn't the monster I'd expected. Wasn't the villain from a fairy tale. This was someone hurt, someone angry, someone caught between duty and desire and not sure which mattered more. "I'm not her," I said, and my voice was steadier now. "I'm not my grandmother. I didn't make her choices. I'm just trying to understand what's happening to me." "I know," Kyle said, and he sounded tired, bone tired, soul tired. But understanding doesn't change the debt, doesn't change what the pack will demand. The new moon rises in 3 days. If you're still here when it does, there will be a gathering, a challenge, and choices will be made that you can't take back. What kind of choices? He met my eyes, and in that golden gaze, I saw centuries of pack law, of tradition, of rules written in blood and bone. The kind that determine whether you live as one of us or die trying to run from what you are. The howl started again, closer now, converging from all directions. The pup, which had been sitting quietly beside Kyle, suddenly stood and moved to my side, pressing warm fur against my leg. Kyle noticed, and something shifted in his expression. "He's chosen you," he said, and there was wonder in his voice now, mixed with something that might have been fear. The young ones, they can sense potential, sense who might lead. He was born during the last full moon, pure blood, strong lineage, and he's already bonded to you. I looked down at the pup, at the creature that had hidden under my bed and brought me flowers and led me to this sacred ground. "What does that mean?" "It means," Kel said slowly, "that you're not just carrying your grandmother's debt. You're being recognized by the pack itself as something more. Something dangerous." He took a step back, his form seeming to shimmer at the edges. "Come, we don't have much time. There's more you need to see before the gathering. More you need to understand about what your grandmother really was and what you're becoming." He turned and started walking, not waiting to see if I would follow. The pup whined softly, looking up at me with those knowing golden eyes, and then trotted after Kyle. I stood there in that clearing, now surrounded by ancient bones and glowing stones, and the weight of 3 generations of choices I had no part in making. And then, because what else could I do, I followed them deeper into the forest. The trail Kyle led us down didn't exist. I'm sure of that. We were walking through spaces where no human had ever set foot, where the trees grew so close together that passing between them should have been impossible. But they seemed to shift, to part, to make room for Kyle as if the forest itself was bowing before him. Behind me, branches snapped back into place, sealing the path, ensuring I couldn't retreat even if I wanted to. The pack, Kyle said, without looking back, is not what humans imagine. Not what your grandmother chose to believe when the choice became too hard. We're not monsters. And not animals pretending to be people or people pretending to be animals. We're something else entirely, something older than your species. Older than most of the civilizations that have risen and fallen in this world. I struggled to keep up with his pace, my breathing harsh in the cold air. Then what are you? He paused at that, turning to face me, and for the first time I saw his shape waver. Just for a second, just long enough to catch a glimpse of something massive and four-legged and absolutely terrifying beneath the human facade. Then he was a man again, but the image lingered. "We are the moon's children," he said simply. "And the moon, Mara, is far more than a celestial body orbiting your planet. The moon is alive, conscious, and hungry for those who understand its language." Then he smiled, and it was not a comforting expression. "And now, so are you. I can't sleep anymore. That's the first thing you need to understand about what's happening to me. It's not insomnia, not the regular kind where your mind won't shut off, or your body won't relax. This is different. This is my body refusing sleep. Because sleep feels like a waste now. Like time stolen from something more important. Something urgent that I can't quite name but can feel building in my chest with every passing hour. I lie in bed and stare at the ceiling and count the cracks in the old wood and wonder when exactly I stopped being afraid of the breathing sound under the floorboards. The pup doesn't hide anymore. It sleeps at the foot of my bed now, curled into itself, but never fully relaxed, always aware, always listening to sounds I can't hear. And it's growing. And not the slow, steady growth you'd expect from any normal animal, but something accelerated. Something that defies every law of biology I learned in school. Yesterday it barely reached my knee. This morning it stands almost to my waist. Its paws are enormous, dinner plates of bone and muscle that should look awkward on a creature still supposedly young, but instead look exactly right. Like they've always been that size, and I'm the one who's been seeing it wrong. I've stopped questioning it. That's what frightens me most, I think. Not the impossible growth, or the way its eyes glow in darkness, or even the fact that sometimes, late at night, I hear it making sounds that are almost words. Syllables strung together in patterns that feel like they should mean something. What frightens me is how quickly I've accepted all of this. How easily I've let go of the world I used to know and stepped into this one where the rules are written in moonlight and blood and instinct I didn't know I possessed. Kyle hasn't come back. 3 days since he led me through the forest to places that shouldn't exist, showed me things I don't have words for, and then brought me back to the cottage with instructions that felt more like warnings. Stay inside after dark. Don't wander the forest alone. Don't try to leave. The gathering is coming, and the pack needs to know you'll be there to face what's owed. Then he disappeared into the trees with that unsettling grace, leaving me alone with the pup and my grandmother's journal and questions that multiply faster than I can answer them. But I'm not alone, am I? The pup is always here, always watching, and more than that. So I can feel things now that I couldn't before, presences in the forest. Attention focused on this cottage like dozens of invisible eyes tracking my every movement. The pack, I assume. Kyle's pack. Waiting to see what I'll do. Waiting to see if I'll run like my grandmother did, or if I'll stay and face whatever judgment they've been preparing for 3 generations. The bond between us grows stronger every day. I don't know when it started exactly. Maybe that first night when the pup crawled out from under my bed and looked at me with those knowing eyes. Maybe when it brought me the moon blossom. Maybe when it led me to the stone circle and sat beside Kyle like it was presenting me, offering me up to something ancient and hungry. But now it's undeniable. I feel what it feels. When it's hungry, my stomach clenches. When it's alert to some distant sound, my own ears strain to catch it. And at night, oh God, at night, when it dreams, I dream with it. The dreams are getting worse, or better. I'm not sure which. They start the same way every time. I'm running through the forest, but I'm not myself. Not the version of myself that walks on 2 legs and thinks in words and worries about normal human things. I'm lower to the ground, moving on 4 legs that eat up distance with an efficiency that makes my waking body feel clumsy and slow. The world is different in these dreams, sharper, colors muted, but sense exploding with information I can read like text, telling me who passed this way and when and what they were feeling. Fear has a smell, so does dominance, so does the readiness to mate. I can track prey in these dreams. Feel the thrill of the hunt singing in my blood as I follow the scent trail of something warm and alive and running. The pack runs with me, dozens of bodies moving as one, communicating without words through sounds and movements, and something deeper, something that flows between us like electricity. I know their names even though no one has spoken them. Fenris, the beta who runs at the front with Kyle. Lyra, the scout whose silver coat catches moonlight like metal. Davin, young and eager, proving himself with every kill. And others, so many others. A family bound by something stronger than blood. When I wake from these dreams, I'm exhausted but energized. My sheets are tangled, sometimes torn. And more than once I've found dirt under my fingernails, even though I haven't left the cottage. Yet the pup watches me with what I swear is satisfaction, like it knows exactly where I've been. Like it's been guiding me through those dreams, the way it guided me through the forest. Teaching me, preparing me, for what I'm still not entirely sure, but I can feel the knowledge settling into my bones like it's always been there. Just waiting for permission to surface. My body is changing too. Nothing dramatic yet. Nothing I could point to and say there, that's different, that's wrong. But I feel it. My senses are sharper. I can hear conversations from the forest that should be too far away to catch. Last night I heard 2 wolves discussing territory boundaries, their voices low and growling, and I understood every word, even though they weren't speaking English or any human language. I understood in the same way I understand hunger or fear, something primal that doesn't need translation, and I'm stronger. I noticed it this morning when I was bringing in firewood. The logs that I used to have to drag one at a time, I can now carry 3 or 4 stacked in my arms without strain. My muscles don't ache the way they used to. I don't get winded climbing the hill behind the cottage. And my reflexes, they've become almost frightening. Yesterday, I knocked a cup off the counter and caught it before my conscious mind even registered it was falling. Just reached out and plucked it from the air like I'd choreographed the whole thing. The mark on my arm has spread. Not far, just tendrils creeping out from the main symbol, following the veins beneath my skin like they're mapping my circulatory system. It doesn't hurt anymore. Now it just feels warm, present, like a second heartbeat pulsing in rhythm with my own. I've stopped trying to hide it. What's the point? The pup stares at it constantly, and sometimes I catch myself staring too, watching the patterns shift slightly when the light hits them right, like they're alive and moving just beneath the surface. I've been reading more of the journal, my grandmother's later entries, the ones she wrote after she fled. They're hard to read, not because the handwriting is bad, but because the pain in them is so raw it feels invasive, like I'm witnessing something too private to share. She wrote about the bond she'd formed with Coyle, how it had felt like coming home and being ripped apart at the same time. How she could feel his emotions like they were her own, how when he was hurt, she bled. How when he was angry, her hands shook with the need to destroy something. She wrote about the change beginning in her, the same things I'm experiencing now, the enhanced senses, the dreams, the feeling of her humanity slipping away piece by piece, replaced by something older and hungrier and far less concerned with morality or consequence. She wrote about how terrifying it was to want things she'd never wanted before, to look at raw meat and feel her mouth water, to hear the howling at night and want desperately to answer it, to feel the full moon pulling at something deep in her chest, like a hand reaching through her ribcage to squeeze her heart. And she wrote about the choice she made, how she realized that if she stayed, if she completed the bond with Cull, there would be no going back. She would become Pack, fully, irreversibly Pack. Not human anymore, or not mostly human, because the change wasn't just physical. It was spiritual, fundamental. A rewiring of everything that made her who she was. She would live by pack law, hunt with the pack, kill with the pack, and eventually, inevitably, she would mate with Kyle and bear his children, and those children would be more wolf than human, and their children after them even more so, until the human bloodline she came from would be nothing but a distant memory. She couldn't do it. I understand that now in a way I couldn't before. She loved him, I think. Or she could have loved him if she'd let herself. But she loved her freedom more. Loved the idea of choice, of keeping some part of herself separate and untouchable. So she ran, broke the bond before it fully formed, left Kyle and the pack and this forest behind, and tried to build a normal life somewhere far away, where the moon was just a moon and wolves were just animals in nature documentaries. But the debt followed her anyway. It's there in the margins of her later entries, the acknowledgement that she'd broken something that wasn't meant to be broken. That blood oaths don't dissolve just because you run from them, that the pack would remember and the forest would remember, and eventually, somehow, payment would be demanded. She knew when she had my mother, when my mother had me, that one day someone from our bloodline would end up back here, standing where she'd stood, facing what she'd refused to face. And here I am. The pup stands suddenly, ears pricked forward, focused on something outside. I freeze, listening, and there it is. Footsteps, multiple sets, moving through the trees with purpose, not trying to be quiet, but not announcing themselves either, just approaching steadily, inevitably, like they have every right to be here and nothing I do will change that. They've come for me. I know it with the same certainty I know my own name. The gathering Kyle spoke of, it's starting, the pack is assembling, and they expect me to walk out there and face them, to answer for my grandmother's choice, to accept or reject the bond she abandoned. My heart hammers against my ribs, but it's not just fear driving it. There's something else mixed in, something that tastes like anticipation, like hunger, like the part of me that's been changing welcomes this confrontation. The pup moves to the door, sits there, looking back at me, waiting. Its eyes are brighter than ever, burning gold in the dim light of the cottage, and I can feel what it's feeling. Eagerness, pride. like it's been waiting for this moment, preparing me for it through all those dreams and all that silent companionship. It wants me to go out there, wants me to meet the pack, wants me to stop hiding behind these walls and accept what I'm becoming. I stand up slowly, my legs feel steadier than they should, my breathing evens out, and I walk to the door, rest my hand on the rough wood, feel the weight of the choice pressing down on me like a physical thing. I could refuse, could bar the door and wait them out and hope they eventually leave. But we both know that's not really an option. Not anymore. Not after everything I've learned, everything I've felt, everything I've become in the days since I arrived here. The bond is already forming, and I can feel it now, thin threads connecting me to the pup, connecting me through the pup to something larger, something vast and wild that pulses beneath the surface of the forest like a second heartbeat. The pack, their collective consciousness, their shared purpose, their ancient unity. And they're waiting, not just outside my door, but in every shadow, in every rustle of leaves, in every gust of wind that carries the scent of pine and earth and something musky that I'm learning to recognize as pack scent. I open the door. The pup bounds out immediately, tail wagging, moving to join the shapes standing just beyond the edge of the clearing. There are 7 of them. No, 9. Some in human form, some in that in-between state where you can't quite tell what they are. And 2 in full wolf form, some massive creatures that make the pup look like exactly what it should be, a child among adults. They don't speak. Just watch me with eyes that reflect the last rays of sunlight filtering through the canopy. Gold and green and amber and gray. And there, standing slightly apart from the others, is Kale. He's in human form but barely, his edges blurred like he's holding onto that shape through sheer force of will. His eyes meet mine, and I feel it. The pull, the recognition, the bond that my grandmother ran from snapping taut between us, like a rope pulled suddenly tight. He feels it too. I can see it in the way his jaw clenches, the way his hands curl into fists at his sides. Fighting it, hating it, unable to stop it. Welcome home, the forest seems to whisper, and every instinct I have, human and otherwise, screams that whatever happens next will determine not just my fate, but the fate of everyone standing in this clearing, bound together by blood and moon and choices made 3 generations ago that we're only now beginning to understand the consequences of. The pup sits at my feet. The pack waits in silence, and I step forward into the unknown. I had only just stepped forward, my foot barely breaking the ground beneath me, when I felt it, the pull. It hit me like a wave crashing against a rock. There was no warning. It wasn't gentle, wasn't gradual. It simply was, as if the very forest itself had reached out and wrapped its tendrils around my soul. The bond that had always existed between us was undeniable, tangible, like something I could touch if I reached out far enough. I could feel it vibrating through my veins, my heart pounding in time with the pulse of the land itself. The pup at my feet, still sitting, its eyes glowing with an intensity that made my stomach twist, suddenly stood. It didn't run, didn't leap. It simply moved to my side, the way a mate would instinctively know to be there, close, ready for what was coming. The moment its body pressed against mine, something inside me snapped, an electric charge I couldn't shake. The pack was here, and they were watching, every one of them. Kyle, standing apart, looking like he was barely holding on to his human form, felt it too. I could see it in his eyes. He hated it. He was fighting it, fighting us. But I wasn't sure I could fight anymore. My feet moved forward of their own accord, as though I were being drawn into something I wasn't ready to face, but had always known was waiting for me. I paused, just beyond the edge of the clearing, and the feeling intensified. The forest wasn't just calling me anymore. It was commanding me. And I had no choice but to listen. The darkness began to creep up, swallowing the clearing in its embrace as the sun dipped lower, fading away entirely behind the thick canopy above. The air felt different now, thick with expectation. My pulse quickened. I could feel the moon rising, its pull as strong as a magnet drawing iron. There was a hunger inside me, not the kind that ached for food, but a deeper, gnawing hunger. A need that came from a place older than I could understand, older than the memories of my family's past. It was the need to run. It was the wolf's hunger. I could feel it now, like a growl in the back of my throat, like claws scratching at the inside of my skin, desperate to get out. My senses were heightened. Too much, too fast. I could smell the damp earth beneath my feet, the sharp scent of pine in the air, the faint traces of fur that lingered in the wind. I could hear the sound of the pack, the shift in the air, the soft padding of their paws against the forest floor. I could hear their breathing, slow and steady, but just like mine, and I realized that they were waiting for me to do something, to decide. The moon was rising higher, and with it came a gnawing need, a pull to run, to shift, to embrace the change that had always been within me. A change I couldn't deny any longer. The first few steps were slow, uncertain. My body was still human, still trapped in the skin that had always defined me. But with each step, it felt as if something within me was growing, awakening. My muscles, my bones, my very soul. It was all being redefined, reshaped by something ancient, something I didn't want to face but couldn't stop. The pup moved closer, its body a reassuring presence at my side. It wasn't the creature I had first seen. It wasn't just a wolf anymore. It was part of me, and I, part of it. I couldn't escape it. And the forest was calling to me again, its breath close, right behind me. I could feel the weight of the trees pressing in, the shadows thickening around me. It was as if the woods themselves were a living entity, a being that breathed with me, fed from me. The hunger inside me gnawed deeper, and I knew I was on the edge of something terrible, something I hadn't yet learned to control. I stopped. I couldn't take another step, but the moon had already begun its ascent, casting its glow through the trees and over the clearing, lighting the forest in a silver sheen. It wasn't the moon that terrified me, though. It was the pull of the wolf within me. The bond was strong, growing, pulling me closer to the pack and what they represented. The leader, Kyle, was still standing there, watching me with eyes that betrayed nothing. But I saw it. He was fighting this as much as I was, but he couldn't stop it. Not any more than I could. We were tied together, bound by the moon, by the forest, by the ancient bond that had always been between us. It wasn't just a curse, it was a calling. I could feel my teeth begin to ache, my fingers twitching, my skin pulling tight, as though it was too small for the person I was becoming. The urge to run was overwhelming now, more intense than anything I had ever felt. It was like I could feel the pack calling to me. I could hear their breaths, feel their eyes on me. They were waiting for me to come to them, to accept what was always meant to be. But I couldn't. Not yet. The pup's growl broke through the silence, deep and resonant, vibrating through my bones. It wasn't a threat, it was a promise. It was my wolf, at the mate bond pulling me closer to the pack, closer to the transformation that was already beginning to take hold. The hunger awakens. Kyle's voice broke through my thoughts, low and steady, but there was a harshness to it that made my heart skip. It wasn't a command. It wasn't an invitation. It was a warning. The hunger awakens. It was true. I could feel it. I could feel the blood running faster in my veins. The shift starting deep inside me. The wolf was coming. It was already inside me, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. The forest called to me again, louder now, almost as if the trees themselves were speaking. Their voices were low, murmuring, alive with the weight of ancient power. "Come," the wind seemed to whisper. "Come and run with us. It's who you are." I could feel the change coming faster now, but I realized that the forest wasn't just calling to me anymore. It was pulling me into something I couldn't escape. This wasn't just about me. This wasn't just about the pup or the pack or Kyle. This was about fate, my fate, their fate, and the fate of the forest itself. And there was no way out. But I didn't have the answers yet. I didn't understand what it meant to be part of this world, this pack, to take my place among them. Could I control it? Could I run with them? Or would I be swallowed up by the hunger that was rising inside me? The ground beneath my feet began to tremble, just slightly, like the earth itself was alive, moving with the power of something ancient, something that had been waiting for me. The air around me grew heavy, thick with the scent of pine and earth, and I could hear the howls rising from the distance. Not just one, but several. The pack was closing in, and the closer they came, the more the hunger inside me grew, until it was all I could think about, all I could feel. It was inevitable. I could feel the change now, the pull of the moon growing stronger with every breath. I could feel the wolf awakening inside me, pulling, urging, demanding. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't just standing in the forest. I was becoming part of it. The transformation had already begun. The night is different. I feel it in the air, in the way the forest shifts around me, in the way the ground beneath my feet seems to hum with energy. I've been walking for hours, but the woods feel like they're closing in on me, pushing me forward, guiding me deeper into its heart. There's no escape now. I can't go back, not anymore. The forest is alive, and it has a pulse, a heartbeat, and I can feel it, pulsing in time with my own. The trees stretch high above me, their twisted limbs like fingers reaching toward the sky, blocking out the stars, drowning me in shadows. I step carefully, my feet sinking into the soft, damp earth. There's something about the way the soil feels beneath my boots, as if the forest is pulling me in, urging me to stay, to listen, to understand. I glance over my shoulder, the cottage now a distant silhouette against the darkened horizon. It feels so far away, like a place from another time. A life that no longer belongs to me. I'm different now. I can feel it in my skin, in my bones, in the deep, aching pull that drags me through the underbrush. It's the forest. It's calling me. And no matter how hard I try to resist, I can't escape it. A faint rustling sound breaks through the silence, and I freeze. My heart skips a beat. I look around, but all I see are shadows. The fog rolls in thicker now, creeping along the ground, swirling around my ankles like a living thing. It's as if the forest is breathing with me, its ancient breath rising and falling in the stillness. The woods are silent, but there's a tension in the air, an electricity I can't ignore. Something's coming. I don't know what it is, but I know I'm not alone anymore. The rustling grows louder, and this time, I know it's not just the wind. There's something moving in the darkness, something alive, something that doesn't belong. I can feel it, a presence, like shadow stalking me, waiting for me to make a mistake, waiting for me to step too far into its world. And then I see it. A pair of glowing eyes, at hovering just out of reach. They're not human, they're not even animal. The eyes pierce through the fog, two glowing orbs that seem to hold all the answers I've been searching for. They watch me, unblinking, unfeeling, as if they know me, as if they've been waiting for me. I freeze. My breath catches in my throat, and for a moment, I forget how to move. The eyes blink once, slowly, and I can feel my pulse quicken, my heart thudding in my chest. Something stirs deep inside me. Something primal, something that connects me to those eyes, to this moment, in a way I can't explain. The fog swirls around me, thickening, pressing in on me like a tangible force. And then, without warning, the creature steps into the moonlight. It's not a wolf. Not exactly. It's something else. Its fur is black as night, streaked with silver, and its body ripples with muscle, its frame powerful and sleek, like something out of a dream or a nightmare. Its eyes, those eyes are the same ones I've been staring at, glowing with an otherworldly light. I stand motionless, my breath shallow, my heart racing. I know this creature. I know it in my bones, in my blood. I've seen it before, in flashes, in dreams. I felt it calling to me, beckoning me forward, urging me to accept it. It steps closer, its eyes never leaving mine. There's no fear in its gaze, no hesitation, only understanding. It's as if it knows me, knows who I am, knows my place in this world, and I know in that moment that this creature is not just some random animal, some wild thing that wandered too far from the pack. No, this creature is mine. It's a part of me, and I'm a part of it. I take a step forward, unsure of what I'm doing, but knowing I have no choice. The creature doesn't move, but its presence looms over me like a storm gathering on the horizon. My pulse quickens, and I can feel the ground beneath me shift. It's not just the fog. The earth itself is alive with the same ancient energy that pulses through my veins, that runs through the forest, that binds me to this place. I raise my hand slowly, and the creature watches me, its golden eyes never leaving mine. I can feel its power, its strength, its essence seeping into me, filling me with something I can't describe. It's not just physical, it's spiritual. It's something deep, something primal, something that has been here long before me and will remain long after I'm gone. The creature takes another step, its form blurring for a moment. And then, in the blink of an eye, it shifts. It doesn't change, not exactly. It just expands, its body elongating, stretching, reshaping itself into something more human. But it's not human. It can't be. Its eyes remain the same, glowing with that strange, unearthly light. It's a man now. A tall, dark-haired man with sharp features and an air of command. His skin is pale, almost glowing in the moonlight, and his eyes, those eyes, still burn with the intensity of the wolf, the wild thing inside him, the creature that has claimed this forest as its own. And then he speaks. "Welcome," he says, his voice deep, rough, but not unkind. "You finally arrived. I don't speak. I can't. My mind is racing, my heart is pounding, and yet I feel calm. This man, this creature, he's not a stranger. He's a part of me, part of something bigger than I can comprehend. And I understand, suddenly, that this is my fate. This is where I belong." The man takes another step forward, and the air seems to change. It's heavier now, charged with power, with magic. The forest hums with it, the trees sway as if dancing to some ancient rhythm. I can feel it too. It's in my blood, in my bones, in the very air I breathe. The legacy I've been running from, the destiny I've been avoiding. It's here, It's now. And there's no turning back. The man, the wolf, stands before me now, close enough for me to feel the heat radiating off his skin, close enough for me to see the wildness in his eyes. "You're part of this," he says, his voice low, like a growl. "You always have been." And I know at that moment that it's true. I've always known. The signs were there, the whispers in the dark, the pull of the forest, the connection to the wolf. And it was all leading me here, to this moment, to this man, to this world. I swallow hard, my throat dry, my mind reeling. What am I supposed to do, I ask, the question escaping before I can stop it. The man looks at me, his gaze softening, as if he's been waiting for me to ask that very question. "You'll lead them," he says, his voice steady. "You'll lead the pack, just like your ancestors before you." I don't fully understand what he means, not yet, but I feel it. Deep down, I feel it. I feel the power stirring inside me, the fire igniting, the hunger for something more. I've always known there was something out there, something calling to me. But now, I know what it is. The forest has chosen me. The pack has chosen me, and there's no turning back. The man steps back, his eyes never leaving mine. "Come," he says, his voice commanding, "It's time." And as I follow him, the world shifts. The fog thickens, the trees grow taller, and the moon, oh, the moon, it's brighter now, like a beacon, lighting the way. The hunt is about to begin, and this time I will lead. The quiet of the cottage is unbearable. It presses in on me, suffocating, until all I can hear is the whisper of the wind outside and the soft hum of my own thoughts. I've been here long enough now. Enough time for the strange silence to become a familiar companion. It clings to the air like smoke, making it hard to breathe, hard to think. But there's something else tonight, something different. The fire crackles in the hearth, a comforting sound at first. But even that is beginning to feel out of place, as if the room itself has grown too heavy. I can feel it in my chest, at the pulse of something deep and ancient, calling to me from the very walls of the cottage. It's the forest. I know it. I can feel its presence in the air, like it's just outside, watching, waiting. The longer I stay here, the more I sense it, the more the weight of it presses down on me. But then it happens. 3 knocks. Slow, deliberate. Each one reverberating through the house, through my bones, like a ripple in the stillness of the night. My heart skips a beat. The sound is too precise, too knowing. It's not just any knock. This is a summons. I know it as surely as I know my own name. It's the forest calling me, the pack calling me. And the truth that I've been running from for all these years is finally coming for me. It's here, right on the other side of that door. I freeze. I can't move. The knocks are louder now, echoing in the silence. And for a moment, I'm paralyzed, caught between fear and curiosity. What is it? Who is it? I don't know, but I know I have to open the door. It's not a choice. It never has been. I glance down at the floor. The pup. The one that's been at my side since I first set foot in this place. It's not just a pup anymore. No, it's something more. It's part of me. And now it hides beneath the furniture, trembling, its body low to the ground, its growl barely audible but full of warning. It knows what this is. It knows what's coming. I can feel its fear, and I feel it too. A coldness creeping up my spine, a tension in the air that crackles with energy, like something is about to break. I should have left. I should have gone far away from here, from the pack. From the curse that binds me to this forest, to this life, but I didn't. I couldn't. The knocks come again, slow and deliberate, each one louder than the last. They rattle the windows, shake the walls, and reverberate through me like an electric current. I can feel it in my chest now, the pulsing of something dark, something ancient, something that is waiting for me, just beyond the door. My hand hovers over the door handle. My fingers tremble, not from cold, but from something else, something deeper, something that connects me to whatever is out there. It's like a magnetic pull, one that I can't resist no matter how hard I try. I know I shouldn't open the door. I know what's waiting for me on the other side, but the temptation is too strong. A memory flashes in my mind, my grandmother's voice, low and steady, a warning that I've carried with me all these years. Never answer the door when the forest calls. I can hear her words, clear as day, as though she's standing right beside me, urging me to turn away, to run. But I can't. I don't know why, but I can't. The pup's growl grows louder, more insistent. It's not just a warning now, it's a plea. It knows. It knows what will happen if I open that door. But I don't listen. I can't stop. I take a breath, steady myself, and reach for the handle. My fingers brush against it, cold and smooth, and for a moment, time seems to stretch, like the whole world is holding its breath, waiting for me to make my choice. The knocks come again, louder this time, insistent. There's no turning back now. I'm standing at the edge, teetering between two worlds. On one side, there's the safety of what I've always known, the cottage, the life I've lived so far. On the other, there's the forest, the pack, the legacy that has always been mine, calling me home, pulling me into its grasp. I can feel it, the weight of it, heavy on my chest. I take another step forward, my hand inches from the door handle. And then, in the distance, I hear something else, something that sends a chill down my spine. A howl. Long, low, echoing through the forest like a call to arms, a summons to the pack. I stop. My breath catches in my throat, and for the briefest moment, I'm paralyzed with fear. The pack is here. They're outside, waiting, watching, and they've been waiting for me all this time. I know it now. The door is not just a barrier between the inside and the outside. It's the threshold between two worlds. And once I cross it, I won't be able to come back. The howl grows louder, closer now, and I can feel the weight of it pressing against me, pushing me toward the door, toward whatever is waiting on the other side. I can't go back. I can't. I know this. The truth is, I've never really had a choice. The pack has always been my family. The forest has always been my home. I've just been too afraid to face it. But now, standing here, I know what I must do. I must face it. I must face them. I take a deep breath, steady myself, and my hand grips the door handle. I'm ready. I'm ready to face whatever lies beyond the threshold. And then, just as I'm about to open the door, it stops. The knocking, the howling, the sound of the forest, all of it goes quiet, dead quiet. I stand there, frozen, my hand still on the door handle. What is happening? Why has it stopped? Why has the forest gone still? I wait, breathless, waiting for the answer, but none comes. The silence stretches on, heavy and oppressive, like the world itself is holding its breath, waiting for me to make the next move. And then, from somewhere deep in the shadows, I hear it. A voice, low, soft, familiar.
It's too late, Mara.
The voice sends a chill down my spine, and for a moment, I can't breathe. I know that voice. I know it in my bones. It's my grandmother's voice, calling to me from beyond the grave. A warning that I've been ignoring all this time. I can't move. I can't breathe. I can't think. And then, just as suddenly as it started, the door bursts open on its own, as if the house itself has decided that it's time. I don't look back. I step forward. The past has come for me. The truth has come for me. And there's nothing left to do but face it. The cold hits me first. Not the normal cold of winter air or evening chill, but something deeper. Something that feels like it's reaching inside my chest and wrapping fingers around my lungs. I step through the doorway and the world shifts. That's the only way I can describe it. Like reality itself bends slightly out of true and then settles back into a different configuration. One where the rules I've lived by my entire life no longer apply. The pack is here, not approaching, not gathering. Already here, already arranged in a circle so perfect it looks deliberate. Planned, like they have been standing in these exact positions for hours, waiting for me to finally open the door and see them. And maybe they have been. Time feels strange out here, malleable, like the forest operates on a different clock than the rest of the world. Some of them are in human form, standing with that preternatural stillness that no actual human can achieve, barely breathing, barely blinking. Others have let the shift take them part way, caught in that terrible in-between state, where bone structure suggests wolf, but posture suggests man. I caught between two natures and somehow embodying both. And two of them are fully transformed. Massive wolves, bigger than horses, bigger than anything that should be able to move through a forest without destroying it. Their fur catches what little light penetrates the canopy. One coat so black it seems to absorb illumination rather than reflect it. The other a gray so pale it's almost white, almost ghostly. They sit on their haunches with the patience of stone sculptures, but their eyes are alive, burning with intelligence that has nothing to do with animal instinct and everything to do with consciousness that's been accumulating for longer than I can comprehend. Nobody speaks. The silence isn't empty, though. It's full of communication I'm only just beginning to understand. Are currents of meaning flowing between the pack members through glances and subtle shifts in posture and something else. Something I can feel but can't see. Like invisible threads connecting all of them in a web of shared awareness. They're talking, debating, judging, and I'm the subject of their silent conversation, even though I can't hear a word of it. The creature beside me isn't the pup anymore. I don't know when the transformation completed. Sometime between opening the door and stepping through it. Between one breath and the next, the animal that's been my constant companion for days has become something else entirely. It stands nearly as tall as the full wolves now, though leaner, younger, still carrying that edge of youth in the length of its legs and the size of its paws. But there's nothing puppy-like about it anymore. This is a predator, a guardian, and when it moves to position itself between me and the pack circle, every wolf in the clearing tracks the motion with eyes that understand exactly what that placement means. Protection. The young one has claimed me, or I've claimed it. Or we've claimed each other in some way that matters to pack hierarchy, to the ancient laws that govern how these creatures interact. I can feel the significance of it rippling through the assembled wolves. Approval from some, wariness from others, and from a few, something that tastes like anger barely contained. Then it moves. The creature beside me, my guardian, my bond, takes a single step forward, and its shadow falls across the ground in front of us. And the shadow is wrong. That's the first thing I notice. The angle is wrong for the position of the moon overhead. And the shape is wrong for the body casting it. Because the shadow isn't mimicking the wolf's movements. It's moving independently, stretching and contracting like something alive, like something separate from the physical form that birthed it, reaching toward the pack circle with fingers that shouldn't exist, testing boundaries, asserting presence. My breath catches. This isn't normal, isn't standard. Even in a world where werewolves are real, and blood bonds can transfer across generations, and forests can call to people through their DNA, this is something different, something rare. The shadow flickers, and for just a moment I see what it really is. The true shape hiding behind the wolf form. Something massive, something ancient, something that makes the fully transformed pack members look small by comparison. As the black wolf rises to its feet, smooth, controlled, the kind of movement that suggests coiled power waiting for an excuse to unleash. It approaches slowly, each paw placed with deliberate precision, and the other wolves shift to let it pass, creating a path through their circle like water parting for a stone. This is someone important, someone whose authority needs no announcement because it radiates from every line of their body, every slight turn of their head. Beta, my mind supplies. Pulling the term from grandmother's journal, from Kale's explanations, from the dreams where I've run with the pack and learned their structure without being taught. Fenris. I know the name before anyone speaks it. Know it the way I know my own heartbeat. Because in those dreams I've run beside this wolf. I've felt its strength and loyalty, and the weight of responsibility it carries. Second to Kyle, enforcer of pack law. The one who ensures that rules are followed and challenges are met and debts are paid. The wolf stops 3 feet away from me, close enough that I can see the individual hairs of its coat rippling in a breeze I can't feel. Close enough that I can smell earth and pine, and something metallic that might be old blood. Its eyes are amber, not gold like the others, and they study me with an intensity that makes me want to look away. But I force myself to hold its gaze, because looking away would be submission, and I'm not ready to submit to anything yet. Not until I understand what I'm submitting to. Then it speaks, not with a mouth or a voice or anything so simple as words, but directly into my mind, at the meaning appearing in my consciousness already formed and understood. You bear the mark of the covenant. You carry the blood of the oath breaker. The young one has chosen you despite this. The pack demands to know what you intend. My throat is dry, but I manage to force words out. I intend to understand what's happening to me, what I'm becoming, what my grandmother ran from. The wrong answer, apparently, because I feel disapproval ripple through the circle, feel it like a physical pressure against my skin. Several of the wolves growl, low sounds that vibrate in my chest cavity. But Fenris remains still, considering, and after a moment that feels like an eternity, it speaks again. Understanding requires acceptance. Acceptance requires surrender. Are you prepared to surrender what you were to become, what you are meant to be? But don't know what I'm meant to be, I answer, and it's the truth. Nobody's explained any of this clearly. Carl showed me things, told me about the debt, about the bond, but he didn't tell me what happens if I accept, what I lose, what I gain. I'm just supposed to stand here and make a choice that will define the rest of my life, without knowing the consequences. Movement at the edge of my vision. Another wolf approaching, this one smaller. Its coat silver gray, like moonlight on water. Female, I think, though I'm not sure how I know that. She circles around Fenris, comes closer to me than protocol probably allows. And when she speaks, her mental voice is gentler, almost amused.
Consequences are what you make them, young one. The bond does not erase who you are. It reveals what you have always been. Some fight this revelation. Your grandmother fought until fighting broke her and she ran. Others embrace it and find strength they never knew existed. The choice is not whether to become one of us. You already are one of us. The choice is whether to accept it or spend your life running from a truth that will follow you regardless.
Lyra, I whispered, pulling the name from the dreams again, and the silver wolf's ears prick forward in what might be approval. You remember. Good. The bond strengthens faster when recognition is mutual, she said. But what is the bond exactly? I press, feeling like I'm finally getting somewhere, finally getting real answers instead of cryptic warnings. Everyone keeps using that word like I should know what it means, but I don't. Is it magic, biology, something else? The wolves exchange glances, that silent communication flowing between them again. And I feel my guardian press closer to my leg, offering support or solidarity, or maybe just reminding me that I'm not alone in this. Finally, Fenris speaks again. And there's something almost like respect in the mental tone.
The bond is belonging. It is the recognition that you are part of something larger than yourself, something that existed before you were born and will exist after you die. It is pack, family, purpose. When you bond fully, you will feel what we feel, know what we know. Your strength becomes our strength. Our pain becomes your pain. You will never be truly alone again because we are always there in the back of your mind, in the rhythm of your heartbeat, and in return, we give you protection, purpose, and power that no human could achieve alone.
And the cost, I asked, because there's always a cost. Nothing this significant comes free. Freedom, Lyra says simply. The freedom to be selfish, to put yourself first, to make choices that benefit only you. Pack law supersedes individual desire. What is good for the pack takes precedence over what is good for one member. Your grandmother could not accept this. She valued her autonomy too much. The question is whether you can accept it. I stood there, letting that sink in, feeling the weight of it. These wolves, this pack, they're asking me to give up the fundamental human right to self-determination, to subordinate my will to the collective, to become part of something so large and interconnected that my individual wants and needs might get lost in the shuffle. Irit's asking me to stop being the center of my own story and become a supporting character in something bigger. But is that really so different from what humans already do? The thought comes unbidden, but once it arrives, I can't dismiss it. Don't we already sacrifice individual freedom for family, for community, for love? Don't we already make choices based on what others need from us, rather than what we want for ourselves? Maybe the pack bond is just making explicit what humans pretend isn't true, that we're all connected whether we admit it or not, that no one is truly independent, that every choice we make ripples out and affects others in ways we can't predict or control. Where's Kyle? I asked, realizing suddenly that the one person who should be here isn't, the alpha, the one my grandmother was supposed to bond with, but the one who gave her 3 days to run and then spent generations trying to forget her. He watches from the shadows, Fenris says, and I follow the direction of its gaze to a spot at the edge of the clearing where darkness pools thicker than it should. He cannot approach, not yet, not until you make your choice. The old bond, the one your grandmother broke, it still exists in fragments. If he comes too close while you are undecided, it might reform without your consent, might override your will and force the completion that was denied 3 generations ago. So he watches, he waits, and he hopes. Hopes for what? That you are stronger than she was, Lyra says quietly. That you will not run. that the debt will finally be settled and he can stop carrying the weight of her betrayal. I look down at my guardian, or at the creature that has grown from frightened pup to powerful protector in the span of days. Its shadow continues to move independently, continues to suggest power that hasn't fully manifested yet. And I think about the dreams, about running with the pack, about the joy and freedom and terrible hunger I felt in those moonlit hunts, about belonging to something ancient and wild and utterly honest about what it is. If I accept, I say slowly, if I agree to bond with the pack, what happens to me physically? Will I transform? Will I become like you? The change is already beginning, Fenris says. You feel it, yes? The enhanced senses, the strength, the hunger. These will accelerate. During the full moon, you will transform whether you wish to or not, your human shape falling away like a discarded coat. But with practice, with training, you will learn to control it, to shift at will, to hold human form during the moon's peak, or take wolf form under the sun. The bond does not enslave you to the change. It gives you dominion over it. And if I refuse, if I try to leave, silence, heavy weighted silence that tells me more than any words could. Finally, Lyra speaks, and her mental voice is sad. The pack cannot allow the debt to remain unpaid, cannot allow another generation to pass with the covenant broken. If you refuse, if you run as your grandmother did, we will have no choice but to hunt you, to bring you back, or to end the bloodline entirely so that the debt dies with you. So it's not really a choice at all, I said bitterly. Accept or die. It is always a choice, Fenris corrects. Death is a choice, perhaps the ultimate choice. Your grandmother chose running, which was a slower form of death. A life spent looking over her shoulder and passing her fear to her children. You can choose the same, or you can choose transformation, choose belonging, choose to become what you were always meant to be, he said. My guardian whines softly, pressing harder against my leg, and I feel what it's feeling, not pressure, not coercion, just hope, simple, uncomplicated hope that I'll stay, that I'll accept, that we'll run together under future moons, and I'll finally understand what it means to be pack. And standing there in that circle of wolves with my grandmother's journal burning a hole in my pocket and the mark on my arm pulsing in time with my heartbeat, I realized that Lyra was right, and the choice isn't whether to become one of them. That transformation is already happening, has been happening since the moment I arrived, maybe since the moment I was born with this blood in my veins. The only choice is whether to fight it or embrace it, whether to run or stay, whether to be alone or belong. I take a deep breath, release it, and I feel something inside me shift, some final resistance crumbling like a wall that's been holding back a flood. The mark on my arm flares hot, hotter than it's ever been, and I gasp at the intensity, but I don't pull away. I let it burn, let it brand me from the inside out. I accept, I whisper, and the forest exhales. The circling begins without warning. One moment the pack stands motionless in their perfect formation, the next they're moving, flowing around the cottage in a pattern that looks random but isn't, could never be random because there's too much precision in the spacing, too much purpose in the deliberate slowness of each step. They don't rush, don't charge, don't bare teeth or snarl warnings. They just move, orbit the cottage like planets around a dying star. And somehow that restraint is more terrifying than any open aggression could be. I've accepted the bond, but acceptance isn't completion. That's what I'm learning now. Standing here with my guardian pressed against my side, and the mark on my arm burning like a brand that hasn't finished its work. Acceptance is just the first step, the opening of a door, but there's still a threshold to cross and a price to pay. and rituals that must be observed, because the pack doesn't operate on human timelines or human logic. And they operate on laws older than language, written in blood and moon phases, and territorial instincts that predate civilization by millennia. Fenris hasn't moved from his position in front of me. The massive black wolf stands like a statue carved from living shadow, eyes fixed on something I can't see, and I realize he's not just standing there. He's blocking, creating a barrier between me and the circling pack, because even though I've accepted, even though I've spoken the words that should bind me to them, I'm not protected yet. Not fully. The bond has to be sealed through ritual, through hunt, through blood. And until that happens, I'm vulnerable in ways I'm only beginning to understand. My guardian shifts beside me. Not much. Just a subtle redistribution of weight. A slight lowering of its center of gravity, when its shadow spreads wider across the ground like spilled ink. The independent movement is more pronounced now, the shadow reaching toward the circling wolves, with what looks like fingers, with appendages that shouldn't exist in two-dimensional darkness. And I feel it. Feel the power radiating from the young wolf beside me. Power that doesn't match its age or size. Power that suggests bloodline far purer than anyone expected. The pack notices too. I can see it in the way some of them slow their circling, in the way ears swivel toward my guardian, in the way the pale gray wolf at the far edge of the circle stops moving entirely and sits, watching with an intensity that makes my skin prickle. This matters, whatever my guardian is, whatever it's becoming. This matters to pack hierarchy in ways I don't fully grasp yet. And then the change begins. Not in me, though I can feel my own body responding to the moon pulling at something deep in my chest. Feel bones wanting to shift and teeth wanting to sharpen. But in my guardian, the young wolf's form starts to blur at the edges, losing definition, and I watch in fascination and horror as it grows. Not the accelerated growth I've witnessed over the past days, but something instantaneous, reality rewriting itself to accommodate a shape that's been waiting underneath the puppy disguise all along. The shadow expands first, spreading across the ground like a living thing, swallowing the moonlight, and where it touches the earth, the grass withers, dies, turns to ash that blows away on wind that shouldn't exist. The pack recoils, not in fear exactly, but in recognition, and in the acknowledgement of something they didn't expect, something that changes the equation they thought they understood. Even Fenris takes a step back, head lowering in a gesture that might be respect, or might be submission, or might be something else entirely. My guardian is becoming what it truly is. The wolf form falls away like a costume, like something it wore because it made me comfortable, and what emerges is larger, darker, something caught between wolf and shadow and nightmare. Its eyes blaze not gold, but white, pure colorless light that seems to burn from the inside out. And when it opens its mouth, I see teeth that are too long, too sharp, designed for rending and tearing in ways that go beyond simple predation. This is a shadowborn. The knowledge comes from somewhere deep, maybe from the bond that's forming, and maybe from genetic memory encoded in my DNA, maybe from my grandmother's journal entries that I read but didn't fully understand until this moment. Shadowborn. The rarest of all wolf bloodlines, born once in a generation, if that. Creatures that walk between the physical world and the spirit realm, that can move through darkness like water, that possess power that even the strongest alpha must acknowledge. And it chose me, not Kale, not the pack. Me. An unbonded human carrying the stain of her grandmother's betrayal. The implications ripple through my mind almost too fast to process. This changes everything. The debt, the covenant, my place in the hierarchy. Because a Shadowborn doesn't follow. It leads, or it destroys. There's no middle ground. The pack has stopped circling. They stand frozen now, watching, waiting. As in I can feel the tension crackling through the air like electricity before a storm. Someone needs to act. Someone needs to acknowledge what's happening, what it means. But no one seems willing to be the first to move, to speak, to challenge or accept or do anything except witness this moment that will be remembered and debated and analyzed for generations. Then Kyle steps from the shadows. I didn't see him approach because he didn't approach. He was just suddenly there at the edge of the clearing, materializing from darkness, like he's made of the same substance as my guardian shadow. He's in human form still, but barely. His shape wavering at the edges, wolf nature pressing against human skin from the inside. And his eyes, when they meet mine across the space separating us, we are molten gold and full of emotions so complex I can't begin to untangle them. Rage, grief, hope, despair. All of it swirling together like storm clouds. He doesn't speak aloud, but his voice fills my head anyway, the alpha's authority making his mental words impossible to ignore. You've bonded with a Shadowborn. Do you understand what that means, what you've become by accepting that bond? No, I answer honestly, my voice sounding small and fragile in the charged silence. I don't understand any of this. I just know that it feels right. That everything in me says this is what I'm supposed to do, who I'm supposed to be. Kyle moves closer, slow and careful, like he's approaching something dangerous. What you're supposed to be is mine, bonded to me, leading beside me. That was the covenant. That was the promise your bloodline made. And not this. Not bonding with a creature that could destroy the entire pack hierarchy with a thought. My grandmother's promise, I correct him, not mine. I never agreed to be yours. I never agreed to any of this until tonight, when I was given a choice between acceptance and death. The bond was made before you were born, he snarls. And actual sound accompanies the mental words now. A growl that makes the air vibrate. Blood recognizes blood. The covenant should have reformed the moment you set foot in this territory. Should have drawn you to me the way it drew your grandmother before she broke it. But instead you bonded with a Shadowborn pup that no one even knew existed. And now everything is chaos. Everything is wrong. My guardian moves then, positions itself between Kyle and me, shadow spreading like wings. And I feel its consciousness brush against mine, feel it offering not words but concepts, understanding. It didn't steal me, didn't manipulate or deceive. It simply recognized what Kel refused to see, that the old covenant is dead, broken beyond repair by my grandmother's choice, and clinging to it serves nothing except Kyle's wounded pride. A new bond was necessary, a new covenant, one based not on obligation or debt, but on choice, on recognition, on the acknowledgement that I am not my grandmother and this Shadowborn is not Kyle. And we get to write our own story instead of being trapped in one written generations ago. Kyle's human form fractures, bones crack and reform, skin splits to reveal fur underneath, and in seconds he's standing there in full alpha form. I'm massive and terrible and radiating power that makes the other wolves drop to the ground in submission. Only my guardian remains standing, remains between us, shadow flickering with what might be amusement or might be preparation for battle. You challenge me. Kyle's mental voice is barely controlled rage now. You, a whelp not yet 1 moon old, dare to challenge the alpha? My guardian doesn't respond with words, doesn't need to, because the shadow moves, reaches out, and where it touches Kyle's massive form, the alpha freezes. Actually freezes mid-lunge, caught like a fly in amber, unable to move or speak or do anything except stand there trembling with effort, as he tries to break free from whatever hold the Shadowborn has placed on him. The pack gasps, or the mental equivalent of gasping, and a collective shock that ripples through the bond connecting them all. This isn't possible. Shadowborn are powerful, but they're not this powerful. Not when they're young. Not before they've come into their full strength. Unless this one is different. Unless it's not actually young at all, but ancient. Wearing youth like a disguise the same way it wore the puppy form. Waiting for exactly this moment to reveal what it really is. Stop, I whisper, not sure if I'm talking to my guardian, or to Kyle, or to the universe itself. Please stop. This isn't how this should happen. We're supposed to be pack. Family. Not enemies tearing each other apart. My guardian's head turns toward me, and in those white burning eyes, I see question. See it asking what I want. What I choose, because despite its power, it has still bonded with me, and my will matters. My decision carries weight, and I realize with sudden clarity that this is the real test, not whether I'll accept the bond, not whether I'll join the pack, but whether I'll use the power I've been given to destroy or to heal. Release him, I say quietly but firmly. Release him and let me speak. The shadow withdraws. Kyle crashes to the ground, panting, and the look he gives me is pure betrayal, pure rage, and I know that whatever happens next, he and I will never have the relationship my grandmother ran from. That ship has sailed. That covenant is truly dead. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we can build something new. I step forward past my guardian, past Fenris, who watches with those amber eyes full of calculation. You're right, I say to Kyle, to the pack, to everyone watching this moment unfold. The old covenant is broken. My grandmother made sure of that when she ran. And I'm sorry that her choice hurt you. Sorry that you've carried that wound for 3 generations. But I am not her. And I won't be forced into a bond that serves your need for closure instead of serving the pack. I take a breath, feel the words forming even though I'm not sure where they're coming from. The Shadowborn chose me. I don't know why. I don't know what it sees in me or what it expects. But I know that together we're stronger than either of us alone. And I'm offering that strength to the pack, not through bonding with you, Kyle, not through completing the covenant my grandmother abandoned, but through a new agreement, a new alliance, where I lead alongside my guardian and you lead alongside whoever you choose. And together we make the pack stronger than it's ever been. Madness. And Kyle spits. The pack cannot have 2 alphas, cannot be divided between loyalties. There must be one leader, one law. Then maybe it's time the laws changed, I say, and I'm trembling now, but not from fear, from the audacity of what I'm suggesting, from the weight of challenging thousands of years of tradition. Maybe the old ways served their purpose, but the world has changed, and the pack needs to change with it. The silence that follows is deafening. Then, from somewhere in the circle of wolves, someone speaks, not Fenris, not Lyra. One of the younger ones, voice uncertain but curious. What would this new way look like? And I don't have an answer, don't have a plan. But my guardian does because I feel it feeding me knowledge. Feel it sharing understanding that comes from walking between worlds and from seeing patterns that physical beings can't perceive. 2 councils, I hear myself saying, one for the material world, led by Kyle, enforcing pack law and managing territory and hunting rights. One for the spiritual world, led by my guardian, managing the bonds between pack members and mediating with the forest and the moon itself. Separate but equal, working together, balancing each other. It's insane. It's unprecedented. It might actually work. The pack begins to discuss. Mental voices overlapping, debating, arguing, and I stand there with my guardian beside me and Kal, still on the ground where the shadow threw him, and I wait. Wait to see if I've just started a revolution or signed my own death warrant. Dawn comes while they're still deliberating. The first rays of sunlight pierce the canopy, and the transformation begins. Our pack members shifting back to human form as day drives away the moon's power. My guardian shrinks, becomes the puppy again, and I scoop it up in my arms, feel it trembling with exhaustion from maintaining that shadow-born form for so long. It licks my face once, trust absolute, and I carry it back into the cottage while the pack continues their debate outside. I set the pup on the bed. It curls into itself, closes those golden eyes that are sometimes white, and falls asleep instantly. I sit beside it, stroke its fur, and look around the cottage that was supposed to be a temporary escape, but has become something else entirely. The claw marks are still visible under the bed. The journal still sits on the table. The mark on my arm still burns with power I'm only beginning to understand. And I don't know what happens next. I just don't know if the pack will accept my proposal or reject it. If Kyle will eventually forgive what I've done or spend eternity trying to destroy me for denying him what he thought was owed. Don't know if I made the right choice or if I just sentenced myself to a life of conflict and struggle. But as I sit there watching dawnlight creep across the wooden floor, I realize something. I'm not running. Whatever comes, whatever the pack decides, whatever challenges I'll face, I'm staying. I'm choosing this. Choosing transformation over safety. Choosing belonging over isolation. Choosing to become what I was meant to be instead of clinging to what I was. The breathing starts again under the floorboards. That same sound that terrified me that first night. But now I understand what it is. It's the heartbeat of the forest itself, and the pulse of something ancient and aware that's been watching this whole time, waiting to see if I had the courage to claim my inheritance. I close my eyes and breathe with it. In and out. In and out. And somewhere in the space between breaths, I feel the bonds settle into place. Feel myself becoming part of something vast and wild and utterly honest about what it is. The cottage is empty when night falls again. The bed untouched except for a slight depression where something small slept. The claw mark still there beneath it like a signature, like a promise. No sign of Mara. No sign of the pack. Just silence and shadows, and that persistent breathing from beneath the floorboards that never quite stops. The camera lingers on the dark space under the bed, on the space where this all began. And in the silence, or in that haunting quiet that speaks louder than any howl, a question remains suspended in the cold air like mist. Did she lead them, or did they hunt her after all? The breathing continues, steady and patient, waiting for someone else to arrive, to open the door, to discover what remains when the covenant breaks and reforms into something new. Waiting for you to decide what happens next. Because some stories don't end. They just change shape, like wolves beneath the moon. Like shadows that move independently, like debts that pass through bloodlines, until someone finally has the courage to pay them in full. What would you have chosen?